Hello, everybody, and welcome to your favorite show each and every week. We're talking about a Rasslin and Racing, brought to you by Dorsey Auto Sales in Anderson, South Carolina. Also, we want to thank Arden's Burger and Grill in Central South Carolina. Also, we want to thank Pepsi Cola and all of our sponsors, and of course, Greenville Sports Media, who brings us each and every week on greenvillesportsmedia.com. Well, folks, we're going to jump right into it this week. We did miss last week, and I will take responsibility for that. I've been dealing with some health issues, both personally and with family. And I want to thank my buddy, Ref Brandon, for sticking by me even through all this mess. This year's been a real rough year, and he's still there, so I got to give him props. Ladies and gentlemen, let's bring him in. Ref Brandon, how's it going, Ref?
Absolutely fantastic. How you doing?
Better than I was last week for sure. Well, Ref, let's get into it. Let's jump right into NASCAR. We got 2 weeks of racing. This week, Denny Hamlin gets the win in Michigan. And last week, who was our winner last week? Was it somebody that hasn't won yet?
Last week, I think Denny Hamlin won back-to-back weeks.
Exactly.
We had Nashville last Sunday, and this past Sunday we had Michigan.
Yep.
So Denny Hamlin's won back-to-back races. So he has trimmed Tyler Reddick's points lead down to 51. Now, I know it don't mean much when it comes to the playoffs. It's just, you're regular season champion. But, Tyler Reddick got off to that hot start and won, I think, 5 of the first 9 races.
Yep.
But he ain't won since then. And Denny Hamlin started out slow, and he's coming on strong. So Denny Hamlin may end up, winning the regular season championship. But he's pretty much done decided that next year's his last full-time year.
Yep.
So if Denny's going to win the championship, it's going to have to be this year or next year. And I think after he pretty much had last season's championship won and had that late caution to ruin his season, I think a lot of folks now are pulling for Denny to win it. But he's got this year and next year. But it looked like Tyler Reddick was going to run away with the regular season championship. But he's struggled ever since he got off to that hot start. But now you got RCR saying that next year the Kyle Busch car, which is down to 33 cars, either going to be Austin Hill or Noah Gragson. So no guarantee yet. But over the weekend, I think it was Saturday, Richard Childress said that was the day they were supposed to announce that Kyle Busch was going to re-sign with them, which was kind of shocking because everybody assumed he was going to leave. But Richard Childress said Saturday that was the day they were going to announce that Kyle had, re-signed with them. So I think that would have taken everybody by surprise because everybody, including you and I, was convinced he was leaving that team because ever since he won those 3 out of first 8 races year one, he ain't done diddly squat in that car. But I guess that them 2 out of 3 top 10s he had right before he died must have had him thinking, okay, we finally found the right crew chief and we finally turned the corner.
Yeah, and because I thought he was going to be going to Legacy because they're supposed to be getting another car next year. So, or him stepping over into the 43, one of the two was going to happen. So 43's come on strong lately also. So
yeah, he finished second Sunday, and then you had Bubba Wallace, Kyle Larson, Carson Hocevar, Daniel Suarez, Joey Logano, Ryan Blaney, Chris Buescher, and Chase Briscoe was the top 10 Sunday at Michigan. This week, they're at Pocono for the Great American Getaway 400 at 3 o'clock Eastern Time, Sunday afternoon.
Well, there you go, folks. And let's stay on NASCAR for just a moment, Ref. I want to kind of pick your brain on that. We're almost at the halfway point. What has been your biggest takeaway this season other than, of course, the loss of Kyle?
If I had to pick one thing, I would say it's probably, I don't want to say the struggles because they haven't struggled, but for that team, they've struggled, and that's Hendrick. I mean, Alex Bowman still ain't done much. Yeah. William Byron's had some top 10s. The last couple of years, William Byron's won 4 or 5 races and at least the first half dominated, and he ain't done anything this year. Kyle Larson ain't done near what I thought he would do, And Chase Elliott actually leads Hendrick right now and wins, and Chase is usually the one that, runs up front a lot but don't win. So I would say it's the struggles, but it's not really struggling. But for Hendrick, it's struggling.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that. I think Hendricks has definitely been just unHendrick like. I don't know a better way to say it. And then some of the cars that you would not think have been there. I never thought we would have seen Carson Hocevar having such a great year that he's having. I mean, no, he's not in the top 10, but he's been there in so many races. It's just bad luck and wrecks. Vandenberg am I saying his name right? Vandesbergen. He's actually been pretty well on the ovals this year. And then, I didn't see he drove the 99 this past year. I know people are sitting there going, you don't know these guys' names, but my mind is got to win a little weak on me tonight. You know who I'm talking about?
Daniel Suarez.
Suarez has got to win in a team that no one thought he would be getting a win with. He won the Coke 600, which is a very prominent race. It's almost like the Daytona 500 in the middle of the year. So, I mean, there's been so many storylines other than, of course, Kyle's passing. And just, I don't know. It's just seemed like this year there's just been so many un-NASCAR-like things happening. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no. Christopher Bell, they announced a couple of hours ago that he suffered a fractured left wrist in his violent late race crash Sunday at Michigan. So they just announced that a couple hours ago. So I'm assuming he's going to race this Sunday with it's just your wrist. It's not broken. It's just fractured. So I would assume he's going to race, but they haven't announced that yet. But he's another one that's kind of surprising because, the last couple of years he's been having a chance to win the championship.
Yeah.
And this year he's still up there, but he's not been up front on a consistent basis like he has been the last couple of years. So I think with NASCAR changing the rules and wanting everybody now to pretty much have the same rules package, I think it's done what they wanted. I know the longtime fans are complaining because, all the cars are built the same, and I get it. But, if you're just an outsider that's watching the sport for the love of racing, you don't want to see one driver or one team dominate every week. So I think from that perspective, NASCAR's got what they wanted because since the playoffs have started, you have not seen anybody win back-to-back championships, and you're not seeing the same team dominate all the time. Because back in the day, Hendrick pretty much won every race because they had the best equipment. When you've got the best drivers, the best tires, the best motors, everything, you're going to win all the time. So I think what NASCAR was trying to accomplish, they've accomplished. Now you just got to get the old school fans to adapt to it and be okay with it and not complain about it because, if you're an old school race fan, you just want to see cars go out there and race. You don't care about competitive balance. You want to see real races. But if you're watching and you want to see actual, competitive racing, then what you've got now is definitely better than what we had 15, 20 years ago.
Well, and, something we forgot to bring up, we also lost Ned Jarrett, Hall of Famer, NASCAR driver, and the only man to ever win a NASCAR race with a 40-lap lead, Ref. 40 lap. I was reading some of the stuff that he did, and I couldn't believe that. He won the race up 40 laps in front of second place.
That's kind of like what I was just talking about with competitive racing, because if you're a new race fan or you're a casual race fan and you turn on a race and the leader has a 5, 6, 7 lap lead, you're going to turn it off right away. Or the year, I forget what year it was, but one year Jeff Burton won it loud, and he led all 300 laps. If you're a race fan, you're new to it, and you see that, you're going to say, well, I'm done. But if you turn on a race and you've got 8, 9, 10 cars being out there and being competitive and they're actually racing, then you're more apt to come back than you are to see one guy out there with a 10-second lead. Who wants to watch that? Unless that's your driver, you don't want to see that. Now, if it's your driver, you do, but that's the only way you do.
Well, and this was brought to me, and this is why I'm actually making this segment a little bit longer, is people used to say, well, Earnhardt used to lead a lot and win a lot, but he did it in such a way that it was interesting to watch. Whereas when Jimmy Johnson was doing it, it was not worth watching. What would you say is the difference between Earnhardt was more the aggressor, though Johnson was good at wrecking people. Earnhardt seemed to make it look like he didn't, but he did. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but I also think that people loved Earnhardt, so if Earnhardt does win, you're okay with it. But I also think if you go back and look, Earnhardt raced like 25 years. So if you look at how many races he won based on how many years he raced, he only won about 3 times a year. Whereas Jimmy Johnson had about a 10-year run. So Jimmy Johnson won more races than Earnhardt did in less time.
Well,
Earnhardt was around so much longer.
Yeah.
So Jimmy Johnson was winning 5, 6, 7, 8 times a year. Earnhardt wasn't doing that.
But also, we got to remember, Ref, there wasn't as many races at the point when Earnhardt was around. Now there's a race every weekend. Sometimes, you know what I'm saying? There wasn't as many races, and most of the time when it started getting towards where he was, towards the end of before he unfortunately was taken from us, they didn't have racing every single weekend. They started later, finished sooner. It seemed like, Johnson was able to do it in a shorter time.
Yeah, they kind of, I think they found the right balance to the races. NASCAR's always, pretty much almost been a year-round sport, just about.
Yeah.
But I can remember back when Richard Petty was racing, they used to race 40-something times a year, and that was way too many. But then I remember when in '96, when I first become a diehard NASCAR watcher and viewer, they had 33 races. Well, now it's 36. They've added 3. But I think that's okay. But I think the 40-something is too much, because when Richard Petty raced, they were running 2 or 3 races a week, and that's too much. And they were running, on a Tuesday night in the middle of a lake somewhere. You can't do that. At least now they're actually racing on racetracks. So, they don't run as many as they did back when Richard Petty raced. But it was 33 back in '96 when I first, really started watching. So they've added 3 since then. So I think 36 is okay.
Yeah. Well, and we also got to remember, folks, back then, these guys would just go to a dealership in the area, grab a car, paint scheme it, and put it on the track. It wasn't like it is now where they've got to go through all this fine tuning. Now, like you said, the cars are the same engine-wise, but they've actually went back to letting them be the look of the car like if they went and got them off the showroom.
Yeah, I remember when I first started watching NASCAR in '96, when I first become a diehard viewer, I remember that's when Jeff Gordon was in his prime. And people hated Jeff Gordon because there was about a 5-year stretch where it seemed like Jeff Gordon won every doggone race.
Yep.
And he was winning 12, 13 times a year. Now, if you're a Jeff Gordon fan, you love to see that. But if you're not a Jeff Gordon fan, it was kind of like Jimmy Johnson. You're not going to watch, and you pretty much know ahead of time, well, if Jeff don't blow up or get caught in a wreck, he going to win the race. And that's not watchable if you're trying to bring in new fans, because when somebody's new, not just to racing, but any sport, they want to see competitive sports. And when you've got 1 or 2 drivers winning every single race, that doesn't help. Like I remember one time a few years back, you and I even talked about it, how Formula One was growing pretty much, and they were trying to catch NASCAR and came close.
Yep.
But Max Verstappen had about a 3-year stretch where he won every pole, every race, and every championship, and it pretty much destroyed Formula One. But that's good if you love the sport and you're going to watch no matter what. But if you're trying to grow a sport, you can't have one person or one team winning all the time.
Yeah.
And Jeff Gordon did it, and then Jimmy Johnson did it. But now with the cars where they are now, you don't see that much. anymore. You'll have a driver, he might win 5 or 6 times one year, but the next year he might win once. And that's just the way it goes now.
Yeah, and plus you got to have a villain on the track. You've got to have that one guy that you know is going to cause trouble. If A, he's in the lead because he ain't going to let nobody get around him, and B, if he's getting ready to get past, he's going to give hell to whoever's trying to do it. Because, I mean, you had Earnhardt. We've had Kyle Busch has been called that. Kurt was definitely called that. Brad Keselowski, when he first came in, had that kind of an attitude. There's always been villain drivers, and I just don't see a villain driver now. Do you?
It seems like Carson Hocevar is headed down that path.
Yeah.
Of course, he did get a win earlier in the year, but he's going to have to win, more often in order to be looked at as hated. Because if you're not running up front very often, nobody cares what you do. But if he all of a sudden starts winning on a regular basis, then I think he'll be the new villain. But he's going to have to win more and run up front more. You're not going to be hated running 25th.
Yeah, that's true. Unless you're just wrecking everybody's front running car. Which is apparently something that some of the guys love to do. And also, folks, a little known note, returning after a 10-year absence from NASCAR, J.J. Yaley will be back in a NASCAR ride. Ref, I mean, why?
I don't know, because I guess it's good to get your name back out there. But JJ's one of those guys, I've always looked at him as kind of like a modern-day Dave Marcus or a modern-day Dick Trickle or Hut Strickland, guys like that you know their name, but you know they're not going to run up front. They're not going to win. They're not going to be competitive. So I don't really know, what the issue is. Even when he races for underfunded teams, and he's going to be out by lap 40. So I don't know what purpose it's supposed to serve.
Well, no, not lap 40 anymore unless he wrecks, because now NASCAR's got that thing where they keep the guys that would just come to the track, run 5 laps, and then put it in the truck and take their prize money and leave. They've kind of stopped that from happening, but I know what you're getting at, though. It's crazy, but folks, that's our extended NASCAR thing. I just when you're gone for 2 weeks, you want to kind of catch up and also kind of get thoughts on things that you see going on. And I know, Ref, you watch a lot of NASCAR. I watch quite a bit, not as much as I used to, but I still watch quite a bit. And I just, I wanted to get your thoughts on that. But we're going to jump over to pro wrestling, folks, brought to you by Ardensburg Grill in Central South Carolina. Go by see Donnie, and of course, the Queen is back. Angie is back. Meet and 3, 6 days a week now, folks. That's right. Not just Sundays, 6 days.
It's more popular than Sprite, and it's supposed to be an exact.
So, let's get to our pro wrestling update. Ref Brandon, first of all, how was your weekend out there on the road?
It was absolutely amazing. I had a benefit show Sunday. It was the SWA building, but it was, I guess you could call it an SWA show, but it wasn't a regular show. This was just special guys that wanted to come in. We had a 19-year-old girl that got killed in a car wreck. I guess probably about a month ago or so now, we had a benefit show to raise money for the family, because when a 19-year-old gets killed, you're not expecting that. So you got hospital bills and you got life insurance, and there was also 2 other kids in the car that got hurt, but they survived. So we had a benefit show for that family on Sunday. So anytime I can do a show and help somebody that needs it, I enjoy doing it.
Yep, and unfortunately that happens. And folks, this is just another reason why you should go out and support independent professional wrestling. They do a lot of these shows where the guys volunteer their time, from the referees to the promoter to the wrestlers, because they want all the funds to go to the families. And you don't see that in major pro wrestling. Now, I understand there is something going around for Rebel. For people that don't know, Rebel was Britt Baker's bodyguard / pro tag team wrestler with Britt Baker in AEW when that first started. She's been gone for a while, and then we found out she has ALS. And they are the whole wrestling community, even WWE stars are helping out and pushing for, she's selling shirts and uh, bracelets and stuff, but it's not going to Rebel, it's going to ALS. She doesn't want it to go to her. She wants it to go towards the research to save someone else from having to deal with it. So just remarkable love for Rebel. Go online. All you got to do is search Rebel AEW and ALS, and you will find it, and you will find where they are selling the shirts, the bracelets. Everything goes to ALS research, and folks, this is a disease that needs to be cured. All right.
Yeah, if you remember, I'll speak on that for a second, Jay. If you remember, I forget exactly what year it was, but it seemed like it's been about a decade or so ago now. They had the Ice Bucket Challenge going around where different people from, whether it was baseball players, basketball players, NASCAR, whatever, that was getting a big old bucket of ice cold water trying to raise money for ALS, because it's not as well known as other diseases, but it's the one disease that they have no known cure for, and they're still not sure exactly how you get it. But it means a lot to me because my mama died of ALS back in 2013. So the last 6 months of her life, she went downhill in a hurry. So that's something that means a lot to me, because I know when somebody gets it, there's no known cure, no way to stop it, no way to slow it down, no way to prevent it. They know very little about it. When Mama got it, they said they could guess on how she got it, but nobody actually knew.
Yeah.
But that's usually, once you get that, usually if you live 2 years, you've done pretty good.
Yep, and she's survived almost 2 years now, if I'm not mistaken. I think they found it about a year and a half ago. So she's still hanging in strong, folks, and we still pray for her, because we know that there is a God and He can heal, because He's the great and almighty physician. And folks, if you don't believe in God, that's understandable, but I do, and I'm going to preach it on this show whether people like it or not. All right, so Ref, we have missed a pay-per-view to go over. We went over who we thought was going to win, but the pay-per-view itself was not that spectacular, other than the fact we saw Brock Lesnar have to take 7 F5s to get Obafemi to lose. And a lot of people think that was the wrong way to do it. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think if you're going to have Brock win the match, which if you're going to keep the feud going, you've got to have Brock win the match. You built up Oba so strong that Brock can't go out there and do a 1 F5 and beat him. Otherwise, you just destroyed the buildup you've had from Oba. Now, if you want to end the feud, then Oba wins the feud and you're done with it. But it looks like they're going to continue the feud. So in order to do that, Brock had to win. And, what's he going to do? Because 1 F5 just destroys the mystique of how big and bad Oba is. And they're not going to have Brock use a table or a chair or something like that, because he's Brock Lesnar. That destroys Brock Lesnar's years of dominance by having to win with a table or ladder or whatever. So if you're going to keep the feud going, I get it. But I would have had Oba win the match and end their feud, because I don't like the feud to begin with. But I guess they're going to keep it going.
I see this going to WrestleMania. I think somehow it's going to end up being Oba taking on each member of the Vision before he gets to Brock Lesnar. In other words, he's going to have to beat Braun Breaker, Austin Theory, Logan Paul. Hopefully he'll be back before WrestleMania. I understand the other gentleman that was in the Vision. I'm just bad with names tonight.
We're talking about Bronson Reed.
Bronson Reed should be returning, for what I understand, by December. So between just the way it's laid out, I could see where Oba has to go through the Vision, and he has to beat each Vision member to get Brock Lesnar again, and that would be at WrestleMania. So I would assume, and I'm just assuming, folks, that Oba somehow will lose his way to King of the Ring. How that happens, don't know, but I got a feeling the Vision will have a way in it. And then he's going to call out Paul Heyman, and Heyman's going to say, if you want Brock Lesnar, you will get him, but before you get him, you have to beat each member of the division. And I could see it being Oba versus Braun Breaker at SummerSlam, or Oba versus Austin Theory. One of the two. And then next one would be Braun Breaker. And then the next one would be, you know what I'm saying? Just keep going until you get through all the division. And then Oba gets him at WrestleMania to let Brock go home, rest, heal up, because he is an older man now. He's not the age of Obafemi. And at the same time, you build up pay-per-views by having him take out members, which I think Obafemi versus Braun Breaker would be one hell of a match.
Yeah, I do too.
Because that would be two big guys. And I think how he gets through it is Seth freaking Rollins gets involved, because as you saw, Braun Breaker cost Rollins his King of the Ring chance. So I think there's, and folks, go ahead and quote me on this, I'm looking at the storyline and it just reeks Triple H all over it, because he likes to throw things that you see in the past into the future at a later date. And I'm just looking at it, and this is what I'm seeing. What's your thoughts, Riff?
I would like it if they were to do that. I'd be okay with it, but I just don't know if Brock is going to stick around till WrestleMania, at least on a regular basis. If you're going to take Brock off TV for 6 months and bring him back, to me, it kind of destroys the feud. But if they were to do that and somehow be able to keep Brock around until WrestleMania, I'd be okay with it.
I think he needs time to heal. I think, he's, like I said, he's not a young guy. I could even see it, maybe not WrestleMania, but maybe the Royal Rumble. If Logan Paul's not ready, then, move it up to the Royal Rumble. And then Obafemi wins the Royal Rumble, then goes on to WrestleMania to take on the champ. Instead of trying to rush Obafemi to take on either Cody Rhodes or Roman Reigns, I just don't see that happening at SummerSlam. I think that would be the wrong way to do it. I could see a Jey Uso versus Roman Reigns at SummerSlam, or even an LA Knight, because that's one guy you haven't pushed well. So now would be the great time to push LA Knight. God knows you're giving him the storyline versus the new bloodline again. So, I don't know. I just wanted to get your thoughts on that.
I saw a report earlier, and I said I'm going to ask Jay about it on the podcast, because we talk all the time about you never know what's true and what's not. But I saw a report earlier that there's some big happenings. It didn't say what, it just said big happenings backstage with CM Punk, and he might be on his way out. And when I saw that, I thought, well, if that's true, why is anybody shocked by that? Everywhere CM Punk goes, he causes backstage disorder, but he's a cancer. He's a cancer in the clubhouse. So if that is true, it wouldn't surprise me at all. But you kind of wonder, if it's true, what do you do? What happened? Because like a month ago, the guy was loved. So has he just now done something, or is it just something that they're just now finding out about, or wanting the word to get out about, or what? But Lord knows I can't stand CM Punk, so I'd be totally okay with it.
Well, the CM Punk thing, ever since the incident with the fan, or two fans, I've heard it now, two fans, two separate times on that weekend, they haven't been really putting Punk out there since then. I don't know if they're waiting for things to cool off, or they're trying to settle it. And as some of you might know, Vince McMahon ended up settling out of court to keep people out of his thing. Him, Nick Khan, and Triple H avoided the court and settled out for, oh my God, I think it was paying $44 million. So the courts would not, so the judge could not rule for the stuff, for records from their phones, from where they hit the auto delete. That's a whole nother story. We'll save that for another day. But just a lot of things right now in the WWE that's just, it's like they're trying to keep it down low, but it still gets out.
Yeah, and I also saw a report earlier that AEW is fixing to bring back Keith Lee. And I'll be honest with you, when I read the report, I was like, he's still there? Because he ain't been on TV in about 2.5 years. But it kind of makes you wonder, where's he been? And if he's under contract, why they not use the guy in that long? WWE was the same way. They brought in Keith Lee, and then they changed his gimmick and made him I think Bearcat Keith Lee, and he was gone again. And then AEW signs him, and nothing. It's kind of like him and Rusev are the same person. They keep getting signed and then not getting used. I don't understand it.
Yeah, well, Rusev finally is starting to get reused again, but he's losing squash matches to luchadors. I mean, folks, we can't have that. If you bring him in, billed as one of your strongest, meanest, toughest, rowdiest guys that's ever been in WWE, why do you have him lose to Dragon Lee? Taking nothing away from Dragon Lee, Rey Mysterio, who beat Batista one time. It makes no sense. So, and I know people say, well, you had, Brody King losing to my guy from AEW, the world champion. Well, he's not world champion no more, but Darby Allin. How can Darby Allin beat Brody King? I mean, it took 6 coffin drops on the outside to do it, but, it's one of those things where, with Keith Lee, I know for 1 year he had a very serious illness. That 1 year can be added on the end of the contract for the simple fact he wasn't wrestling, and they still paid him. And from what I understand, he is still getting paid. So it's not like he's just, sitting at home not getting paid. Yet he's, like a 90-day clause. But at the same time, what's happened to this last year?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's kind of like back in the day when Vince McMahon on WWE and you had 500 wrestlers and you only used 50 of them. And you just had guys in the contract that you're doing nothing with. If you've got Keith Lee there all this time for 2.5, 3 years and you ain't used him, why not release the guy? Because obviously you have no intention of using the guy. I mean, he ain't cut a promo. He ain't done a diddly squat. So
he's actually been on.
And why have you not used him?
He's actually been on WWE TV before he's been on AEW because he was at the Hall of Fame ceremony with his wife. So yeah. So I mean, we've seen him there, and I did notice he did look a little bit thinner. I don't know if you noticed that or not. He wasn't as, he used to be so broad, but he didn't look as broad in that picture. I don't know if it's something he's trying to do like Paul White, the Big Show. He is actually getting back into shape to wrestle. He says he wants to wrestle some more, but of course he doesn't want to be a world champion. He just wants to come in and do some matches to help promote some of the other big guys and help the other big guys in AEW, which I think's great that he would be willing to do that. Plus, he just had several hip surgeries, so he's not going to be able to do what he used to do in the past.
Did we speak at all about the whole AAA pay-per-view with Chad Gable's mask coming off? Did we talk about that? I can't.
No, that's the pay-per-view we missed last week. The AAA.
I was thinking we briefly brought it up 2 weeks ago, but I wasn't sure. But I just hated. I guess you pretty much got to do that because I don't think the guy that's El Grande Americano number 2 now is going to end up being the same guy in the end, so it can't be him. But to me, everybody knew that Chad Gable was number 1. So to me, him taking his mask off just kills the whole thing because nobody cares who number 2 is. You wanted to know who number 1 was because they played it off like it wasn't Chad Gable. I'd have been okay with number 2's mask coming off, or to have somebody else go out there that one night that's not Chad Gable and their mask come off, and then you say, see, we told you it wasn't Chad Gable, and then the next time you see him, it's back to being Chad Gable. But to me, Chad Gable's mask coming off just kills that whole entire angle. But the match was absolutely phenomenal.
Yes, it was.
It was an amazing match, but I just think Chad Gable's mask coming off kills that whole storyline because you played it off this whole time like it wasn't Chad Gable, and then nobody cares about the phony ones. You want to know who the original one was, and now it's Chad Gable. To me, that kills the whole thing. I was hoping they would let somebody else go out there and do it and then lose the match and then the mask come off and then not be Chad Gable. And then you keep it going, and then the next night on Raw, if he comes out again, it's Chad Gable.
Yeah, but everybody kind of knows is Ludwig, and what makes him, what they think is sustainability is that he was willing to learn Spanish. He knew Spanish, but he was really gotten deep into this character because he is getting more pop than he would ever get in the WWE. Let's face it, folks. He wasn't going to be like your favorite wrestler, Mr. Gunther. He just doesn't have that kind of appeal. His body shape form is more of a luchador than it is of a Gunther or a Cody Rhodes. Now he's not that smaller than Cody, but you know what I'm saying when I say that. And I think he was getting more push, more play in AAA. And like I said, the fans love him. They love him. I think he's going to be a star for them. I think he could be the one to dethrone Dom when it's all said and done, if they do it right. And, I don't know. That AAA is actually, this is the weirdest part, folks. I think when it comes to pay-per-views right now, it's AEW, AAA, TNA, WWE. Pay-per-views. Now, folks, I'm not talking about the shows. Pay-per-views. You spend your money to watch a pay-per-view. What would you be willing to spend your money on? And this is something that I was looking up, and it is very true. Yes, TNA doesn't have the pay-per-view numbers, actually AAA did very well in the pay-per-view numbers this past time, but it's if you go by the overall product that happens on the show, if TNA's had the viewership that WWE has, WWE be in a world of hurt right now.
Yeah, but the funny thing is, The Undertaker, they say, is running AAA, and they're talking about how good it is, and I'm thinking, yeah, but that's because TKO keeps their head out of it. Because if you remember, when Triple H ran NXT, it was like, it's the greatest thing ever. He should be on Raw and SmackDown. And now he is, and everybody hates it. And now everybody says, oh, NXT's doing great. Move Shawn Michaels up. If they did, it'd be the same way, because once you get to the main big times, TKO gets involved. So if Taker moved up, it'd be the same way. I can recall hearing these same conversations when Triple H ran NXT, the same thing. But Taker is doing a good job, but it's because it's the undercard, it's the minor leagues. TKO stays out of it.
Yep. Well, they're looking at it a lot closer right now, because they're doing a 2-night Triple Mania where one is in Vegas and one is all the way back down in Mexico. Now, this is going to be kind of weird, because you got some fans that travel from countries to see a 2-day show, and they're only going to, I know there's a lot of luchadors, and they must be fixing to add a bunch of I know Bayley's been going down a lot, but according to her Instagram, she's back at WWE. They've been installing other wrestlers down there. But for them to do a 2-night show, that means that they've got to be adding more stars to both lineups from WWE in order to make this show better. Do you know what I'm saying? There's no way they could do a 4-night or 4-match in Vegas and then a 4-match at you know what I'm saying? Because Triple Mania has always had 8 matches. And for them to do 4 at one place and 4 at the other makes no sense. They've got to be doing 16 matches, and they have got to have some way of adding more WWE stars to this.
You would think so, but I think the worst part about Chad Gable's mask coming off is now they'll put him back on Raw or SmackDown and make him a jobber all over again. And Chad Gable showed under that mask how good he is in the ring. They need to do something with him.
Well, if anybody watched Raw this Monday night, he did some Brock Lesnar suplex cities on Rusev, of all people. He picked Rusev up like it was no tomorrow, and was suplex city in him and All Ego. So, I think this storyline is going to move from Gable, and I think if you listen to what Ray said, there's people that you need to speak to that from the start. I think he's going to get back in with Otis, with Kazawa, and start getting that group back in together again. And I could see him and Otis going after the tag titles, honestly. I don't think Kazawa and Otis would be tag champions. It's too much of a comedic type thing. But if you got Gable at his best and have him turn Otis into a machine, I could see them being tag champs.
Yeah, Zawa's pretty much taking over the modern day role of Santino, just being like a comedic part.
Yeah. And Otis does that to a point, but I mean, he's also had a mean streak on him before. So I could see Otis getting his mean streak, like Gable saying, it's okay to be fun with the fans, but you've got to have a different streak when you enter the ring. And I could see them too. I could get behind an Otis and Gable World Tag Team Champion, facing a Logan Paul and an Austin Theory or the Street Profits or something like that. I could see them doing it because Chad Gable is massively strong for someone his size, and Otis gives you the size versus the bigger guys that are out there. So I could see that.
Yeah, and Otis can flat out wrestle, but he's so entertaining. He's like a lovable fat guy. But to be a big man, Otis can actually move in the ring too.
Oh, yeah. I mean, who else can worm at 412 pounds? It just don't happen.
That's pretty incredible.
All right. Well, folks, this has been our refresher. Rasslin and Racin, brought to you by Ardensburg Grill in Central South Carolina. Go by see Donnie and Angie. Also, Dorsey Auto Sales in Anderson, South Carolina. Pepsi Cola, Upstate Physical Therapy in Anderson, South Carolina. And, of course, everybody at GreenvilleSportsMedia.com. We'd like to thank you for watching us. And, Frev, tell them where they can find you each and every day.
I'm on YouTube just about every day at Ref Brandon and the Todd family. It's mainly college football and wrestling, but I do talk NASCAR, baseball, basketball, and I do top 10 countdowns that sometimes are about sports and sometimes they're not about wrestling or sports whatsoever.
Well, at Ref, I had a friend who actually listens to our show, and he said, can you ask Ref, could he do a top 10 on the top 10 best Clemson football games?
Top 10 best Clemson football games?
Yes. In other words, out of all the games you've seen, your top 10 best games that you've watched personally.
That I've watched, okay.
Like mine, my game was the game when Deshaun Watson, not the national championship game, but when he helped them win that game here in Death Valley. At the very end. I want to say it was against Louisville.
Louisville was when Louisville had Lamar Jackson?
Yep.
Okay.
So my personal. But anyway, I was told to ask you that since they said you were a Clemson fan, you should be easy to figure out your top 10 most watched Clemson games as far as what you've watched. What was the 10 best ones that you watched personally?
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I'm glad you told me that.
All right. Well, folks, thanks for watching us. We'll see you here next week. Rasslin Racin.